What's up guys, J's2Cents here. We're gonna kick off our first laptop review of 2021 with a unit that was sent over by Micro Center, who is the sponsor for today's video. We are gonna be taking a look at the new MSI Gp66 Leopard. This is the very first 30 series laptop that we have gotten our hands on. And I'm really excited about this one because of the die shrink of the latest Ampere architecture and just how powerful things have been on the 30 series desktop side. This one right here might make some desktop users cry. So first things first, I've got to give a huge thank you to Micro Center for sending us the Gp66 Leopard to take a look at. You guys can go down into the description of this video. That's the little drop down box with the arrow. Now some of you have actually probably never seen that. You can actually find a link where you can go to Micro Center's website, find one of their 25 locations nationwide where you guys can go and check out this laptop in person, purchase it, give it a test run, or check out their build your own for any of the PC components and stuff you might be interested in. They've also got a PC builder online that we've done some ads for. You guys can really do a lot with Micro Center. So they are one of our good friends when it comes to the PC enthusiast space. And they're obviously our preferred store when we go shopping here because we've got one literally less than an hour away. So once again, a huge thank you to Micro Center. Check the description down below so you guys can find one near you. Moving forward, this laptop is something I've been wanting to get my hands on since we learned about 30 series launching back in September. Because obviously with a new family of graphics cards, you know the new family of laptop discrete GPUs are coming out with it. So let's go ahead and talk about the appearance because I feel like MSI has gone through sort of a dramatic overhaul in terms of their aesthetics. One of the things I personally cannot stand with laptops is where they go with this super over the top, gaudy, red stripes, gold lettering, just ugly design. And I feel like that's a lot of laptop manufacturers have sort of lost their way along the lines of that. They're just trying to stand out. And let's just face it, a lot of their designs they stood out, but in the wrong way. This Gp66 Leopard here, it's angular and it's metal. Actually, this is black anodized metal on the top right here. It's not plastic. And I'm kind of showing you the hinge here and that it will stay in pretty much any location that you put it except for right at the bottom. The hinge resistance is perfect. It doesn't lift up the laptop. It's not the lightest laptop, but it is also definitely not the heaviest. I'm actually having a hard time finding a figure on the weight on it though, because the MSI's website doesn't actually give a lot of the specs that I find to be super important, but if I had to guess, I'd say right around 5 pounds, which is not super light, but it's also nowhere near as heavy as like those desktop replacements that we talked about. But the design, if you look at the back, it's got this sort of a stealth fighter kind of a look. It's all matte black. We've got the overhang right here that extends out past the monitor, which is kind of becoming a norm now for a lot of different brands. But on the back right here, you can see you've got a full-size RJ45 jack. You've got your, this is a USB-C, technically it says Super Speed Thunderbolt, so that's gonna be the Thunderbolt 4 right there. And then we've got a full-size HDMI, as well as what looks like a USB is actually a proprietary plug from our power brick. You've got exhaust ports on the back right here, so heat that's pulled in through underneath and on the sides is exhausted out the sides and the back. The front is just as minimalistic, which I love about it. Again, matte black keys. The only lighting anywhere on this laptop is the keyboard itself. The rear logo doesn't light up, which by the way is very ghosted in there as well. It's just a decal, which is recessed, so it's flush, it doesn't stick up. But I thought this was gonna light up, it doesn't. I'm kind of happy that it doesn't. I love the fact that this is just a real kind of non-assuming laptop. It doesn't have any crazy lights going on. It doesn't glow in the vents, it doesn't glow underneath. It just has lighting where it matters, which is on the keyboard. It uses SteelSeries, so it's got the same SteelSeries user functions that you would expect from previous MSI laptops. So you have different lighting modes, you can set zones, you can set macros, you can set lighting zones. The trackpad, very responsive, and it does have right and left key press, which I find to be just the right amount of resistance, where I don't find myself false clicking. And I also don't find myself not having clicks register because I'm not pushing hard enough. But as you can see right here, the 15.6-inch matte display, which is IPS level, which I still don't know exactly what that means, but the colors look vibrant, but not oversaturated. The off-viewing access isn't terrible, but it's a laptop. You'll be sitting directly in front of it. But the 240 Hertz Full HD 1080p, in my opinion, is perfect. I would much rather have a high refresh rate 1080p panel than a 4K 60 in something that's 15.6 inches. The overall dimensions of it definitely falls right in between. The thickness at the thickest part of the laptop versus our own measurement was 16 millimeters thick. Again, not a thin and light, not designed to be. With the lid open, with the lid closed, it comes in at right around 21 millimeters. So like I said, not the smallest boy, but also could still get a date to the prom. Now, there's a lot of ways we can cover a laptop. I like to sort of use it from the perspective of travel. I do agree, laptops have their place. Obviously, we've reviewed a ton of them around here. And I believe that as somebody who used to travel a lot, and I've said this in every single review, and it probably sounds like a broken record, I know what it's like to travel with a terrible laptop, one that just doesn't provide any sort of value other than whatever basic functionality that you would use maybe in a business environment. So I used to carry 2 laptops everywhere I went, which, trust me, from someone like me who has a habit of setting something down and forgetting to pick it back up, that was always terrifying traveling through airports, layovers, hotels, you name it. I was always terrified I was gonna lose a laptop. Fortunately, I never did, but I also never had anything like this to travel with, which could literally be the perfect business and productivity / gaming laptop. Laptops over the years have started to really encroach and overlap desktops in terms of performance, depending on the tier desktop that you have. This one is equipped with an Intel 10th Gen i7 10875H. I've already mentioned that the discrete graphics in here is an NVIDIA RTX 3070 laptop GPU. So what does it mean when they say laptop GPU? They've had a lot of different names for it over the past. They've had M for mobile, they've had Max Q, and then there's like the Max, I think there was a super version even as well. And there's also full desktop, or they would call it, or full die, where it would have an uncut die, but it would also have a reduced clock speed to try and keep temperatures and power draw down. I can tell you right now that even though this has the name 3070, it is going to not perform exactly like a 3070 desktop GPU. So we plan on seeing today exactly how close to that you can get. It's got 32 gigabytes of SODIMM DDR4, because it's laptop, at 3200 megahertz. Typically, laptops that we've tested here in the past will have up to 32 gigabytes in them, but they're always something like 2666 or maybe a 2800. It's nice to see 3200 megahertz because there are a lot of tasks these days that can benefit from faster RAM speed, especially if you're trying to do any sort of mobile editing, Photoshop, anything that's really RAM intensive. The RAM speed will definitely become a factor that if you don't have something that can keep up with your workload, then it's going to be the one spec that really starts to hold you back. And I like seeing that we're up to 32 megahertz or 3200 megahertz here when it comes to the RAM that's installed. Now this does have a 6 copper heat pipe direct die contact cooling system in here with 2 fans. And we haven't looked at the bottom yet. We're gonna see if we can open it up. That's one thing I always like to check in these reviews too, is it serviceable by the user? Because sometimes the case, once they're closed up, and we've experienced this with MSI in the past, they're not exactly user-friendly. But this also has 1 terabyte of M.2 storage. So that's something that, like, if this were something I were using every single day, I would probably want to put a 2 terabyte in here, or see if it's expandable with a second M.2, or maybe even a 2.5-inch bay in here to put in a solid-state SSD. That way I can expand the storage. But fortunately, because this does also have Thunderbolt 4, it means that if we don't want to open it up and you're worried about damaging or avoiding the warranty, you could literally just use a Thunderbolt storage device or USB-C and get yourself a nice solid state external drive that you can keep in your laptop bag or whatever and keep all of your mass storage on there, and even your games and such, and then not have to worry about filling up your hard drive. Now, one of the things that MSI laptops are known for is the Msi Dragon Center. All right, so here's Dragon Center. I'm not gonna go into full details on it, but I do like the fact that it's sort of matured. This is the monitor page where you can see the utilization of the CPU, the GPU. But yeah, I do like the fact that we can kind of get a quick snapshot of what's happening here. And I am set to extreme performance because I'm getting ready to do gaming right now. Another thing I'm gonna do here is go to user scenario. This is where we can go over here and click user, and we can change our fan speed. So I have it currently set to cooler boost and turbo for performance level. This is kind of how the clocks behave, and then the fan speed's how the fans behave. So I'm gonna leave that on advanced. Click this, and now you can see we could actually go in here and change our fan curves and stuff for CPU and GPU. Now I'm just gonna sort of leave these where they are on auto, and then that's kind of where I'm gonna leave it. I mean, we could go in here and do other things like turn on the crosshair. That's if I guess you want to cheat on like those 360 no scopes, bro. You can turn your webcam on and off. I leave it off by default. You can turn on the function key. You make it either function or Windows key to do the keyboard commands, and then you can turn the Windows key off entirely. Ambient link, that's if you have other Mystic Light devices, you can control them there. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and test for, like I said, that usability while this shuts down. I want to see though how easy it is to open this up and user service it. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and give an MSI a complete fail here in terms of user serviceability. Of course, it's got all these flathead screws, but I cannot get the corners to unclick. In the middle part of the case, you can hear it. But yeah, where the corners are, they're just so freaking tight, and the amount of flex I'm having to give, and I'm using, iFixit's specific plastic tools on here, so I'm not marring the case all up. If you're trying to use a flathead screwdriver or something, I guarantee you would scratch the hell out of your laptop. This is disappointing because of the fact that it means that you're gonna take a real risk of breaking the bottom piece, cracking it right down the middle even, and potentially breaking it in half because of where all these vents and stuff are. Each one of these are weak points when it starts to flex. So as somebody that is very much an advocate of self-upgrading and servicing of your stuff when it comes to like thermal paste and other parts, I would really like to see this unit have a nice little slide off feature. Some laptops that we've taken a look at, you unscrew them and then they will slide back and then pop off and you have access to the entire thing. MSI, for whatever reason, has not been very user friendly when it comes to making sure that users are able to get in here and service their own stuff, which, like I said, means I'm giving them a big fat fail in that aspect. So let's do this now. Let's go ahead and start with 3D Mark. The reason why I'm going to choose 3D Mark is this is an RTX test, and we can see now how close this will actually come to our desktop 3070. That'll give us an idea of what the performance variant or difference is between desktop and laptop versions of the same SKU. All right, so we got a 6,459 in our Port Royal score. If we compare that to the desktop, our FE got an 8,228. So it's about 78.5% of the desktop GPU. Now, if we look at other GPUs that was their score in the desktop range, 3060 Ti FE at a 6939, so it's still a little below a 3060 Ti. And we have 2080 amp, which is a non-super, 6608. So it's pretty close to a 2080 custom overclocked AIB card in a laptop. So if you're running a 2080 on a desktop, just know that this laptop's GPU is pretty close to yours, which is actually pretty impressive if you ask me. But if we really want to impress ourselves, let's go ahead and try some demanding titles. So let's go ahead and give Cyberpunk 2077 a shot. This is a title that does feature DLSS, which is something that would be enticing when it comes to an NVIDIA graphics card, especially a discrete one in a laptop. Let's see if we can even run any RTX features on this laptop and not completely just overwhelm the card. All right, so here we are in Cyberpunk 2077. Now, it's important to note I do not have any of the RTX features on right now. This is just 1080p Ultra preset. Well, it's custom. Ultra preset, and then what I changed was DLSS to performance. Now, I was worried with performance and it might have looked fuzzy because it is 1080p, which means it has to downscale below that and bring it back. It doesn't look bad at all. Actually, it looks really, really good. Phil was impressed too. He thought it was gonna look like crap. It really doesn't. Motion blur's on high though. I'm gonna bring that off. Temperatures though. CPU, as you saw, was 91 for a second ago, It does get really warm. Some of the heat does come up through the keyboard because there is some vents in the keyboard. I don't find it to be uncomfortable yet to push the keys, but that's something that will depend on how long the gaming sessions last. 70, 69. Okay, so as expected, as if I turn on RTX right now, it is going to tank hard. And ray trace lighting on medium. Actually didn't tank as hard as I thought it was.
Yeah, 70 to 50.
Yeah, it could be worse, but here's the thing. In my opinion, like the improvement in terms of what it looks like at 1080p isn't necessarily worth the trade-off in my opinion. So what if we were to go to ray trace shadows off? Because reflections is like the one that really gives you the most realism, I think. Yeah, so you took about a 7 FPS hit, which isn't awful. I'm a cowboy, baby. Oh God, I can't drive. Oh, jeez. I'm not the cowboy Night City deserves. I'm the cowboy Night City needs. Oh crap. Oh. Whoa, where'd he go? Uh-oh, I'm gonna die here. Hey, get off me. This is always the best way to test it, in my opinion, is just getting a shootout with the cops. Yeah, it's staying consistent. I'm shocked. Oh my God, the secondary explosion. Oh, I'm dead. All right, one other title I want to run real quick, and we'll just do the benchmark on that, and that's going to be Borderlands 3. All right, so we're gonna run Borderlands 3's benchmark exactly the same way as we did our desktop, which is badass mode on, full screen obviously. Fidelity FX sharpening is off, and then the badass preset with DX12, so I need to change that. I did a test with DX11 the first time, and now I'm back to DX12. I don't know if that made it in the camera, but it was way smoother and the CPU temperatures were way lower. So this is just one of the few titles that actually seems like DX12 truly does make an improvement. 86.25 was our average FPS in that run. The RTX 2080 Super was 95, and the 2060 Super was 68. The 3060 Ti was 97. So, I mean, we don't really have any other GPUs here at that FPS range to kind of compare it with. So, I mean, it's kind of landing in its own space at that point. But as you can see, the core clocks are in the 1600s, and that's just because of the nature of the power limit, like we said. What holds these cards back is their power limit available to them. But there's one other thing I want to do now, and that's going to be see what the CPU temperatures and such are when we run something like Cinebench. And I'm just curious what the temperatures are going to be. I really don't care about the score. 94, 95. So our core clock is actually 3.75 gigs all core, and our temperature's holding steady right about 95. So I'm assuming 95 is where it's gonna start dynamically throttling to kind of control its temperature, because it doesn't really go above 95. It's nice to see that it's actually able to keep itself boosting to almost 4 gig all core, maintaining 95C, and the fan speed's not even as bad as it could be. As soon as I stop the test, how fast will the temperatures come back to normal? 62 already, 57, 56. So heat pipes are definitely doing their job. So at the end of the day, the GP66 Leopard, I feel like it's a very good middle ground unit to somebody looking for a thin and light but wants the power of a desktop replacement. I don't find it to be too big or too heavy. It will fit in pretty much any standard laptop backpack. That's the thing with the 17-inch models, is depending how much overhang and how long it is, and does it have a numpad on the side. Some backpacks it just simply won't fit in. So this would be easy to travel with. The battery life, look, here's the thing with laptops like this. The battery is really only there to make sure that it's still operating when you don't have a plug. And when you don't have a plug, you're not gonna be gaming on it. You're not gonna be doing any heavy workloads. I see people that like to get really upset when they talk about battery life. Look, this is not a Mac product. It is not designed to have the longest battery life possible. I can't even tell you how big the battery is, because I couldn't even get it open to be able to actually tell you. But I can tell you right now that laptops like this are designed to be run on a plug where possible. This laptop charger is also big enough to where when you're traveling on an airplane, or you use any one of those AC adapters that are starting to be built into cars now, like my truck has a full-on house plug, but it cannot actually deliver enough amps to be able to drive the battery or the charger itself, or the charger brick. So you still are gonna have limited use on airplanes and stuff, and these are things you need to keep in mind with these powerful laptops. And this is not new. This has been going on for quite a while. If I were gonna have to use the battery, I would go right into the Dragon Center. I would go right into the battery mode, which is gonna make sure that it switches over to the iGPU. It's gonna turn off the discrete GPU. It's gonna bring down the core clocks. It's gonna turn down the fans. It's gonna turn down the lights, the brightness, everything, to try and give you as much battery power as possible. But I've seen, or battery life as possible, but I've seen people sort of complain that we don't do gaming battery tests, which is really sort of dumb, considering the fact that when you put it on the battery, the GPU is gimped of all the amps that it needs, and it can't even ramp up to its turbo clock, and usually you're lucky if you get even 20 to 30 FPS in even a less demanding game. So that's why we don't really go into any sort of serious details when it comes to battery life, because we all know PC and battery life and gaming laptops are not three things that really tend to overlap on the Venn diagram. But if you're looking for something that's very powerful, portable, and will get the job done and be a very near desktop replacement, it has 30 series and RTX and 8 cores, 16 threads, 32 gigs of RAM, and configurable, obviously, in a bunch of different specs, then the GP66 Leopard needs to be a laptop that is on your short list of things to go and check out. Speaking of checking them out, once again, a huge thank you to Micro Center for allowing us to check out this unit. And you guys can find this unit to go check out in one of their 25 locations by using the link in the description below. As always, guys, we appreciate you guys watching our video. Subscribe if you're new around here, and maybe share this video with a friend if you know someone is currently shopping for a laptop. And as always, guys, we will see you in the next one.